I decided to share some of my favorite books that I ever taught. Some of them I still teach, others I haven't taught in years, but maybe would love to bring them back for my students. Thought you might have some ideas and suggestions to add to my list. Or if you haven't read some of these, maybe you would like to add them to yours. I am not going to share plot summaries or character descriptions or time periods or settings or even read quotes. I thought I might just share some of the big ideas because I think that's what gets us interested in reading a book. So in no particular order, the first one that I chose is Boys No Bird by Helen Oyeyemi. The reason why I chose this book is because I think it has a very interesting idea of our eyes only see what our minds tell us to see. So if something is not part of our experience, is not part of our perception of the world, most likely it will go unnoticed. Another interesting idea here is when we look in the mirror, who do we see? Is it the person that we believe we are or the person that others see? How is our perception of ourselves formed? The next book that I chose is Sing and Buried Sing by Jasmine Ward. The big question here is, what are we willing to do for love? Could we kill the ones we love because their alternative is even worse? How do we live with that choice? It's an honest and raw meditation on parenthood, bad mothers, siblings raising siblings. The third one that I chose is a classic, and again about love. Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. Beautiful, beautiful language, actually too, the language of the narrator and the language of the characters. Very distinct and both amazing. But also a steamy love story between Tea Cake and Janie. And again, a similar question, could we kill the ones we love because it's the only choice that could be made for them? How do we live with that choice? How do we learn to live without? Murakami's short stories is my fourth book that I chose, again in no particular order. I love all of his works, but this collection of short stories, Blind Willow, Sleeping Woman, I love in particular. The questions he explores here are identity, trauma, loss, loneliness, mortality. His simple and straightforward messages are always wrapped up in really intricate, jazzy, dreamy stories that I think are just fascinating. Invitation to a Beheading is the one that I always loved more than my students. Maybe I could find a better way to share my love for this book with them. But the reason I like it is because it is about loneliness and realness of an individual in a fake, cruel, harsh world that hates individuality and does everything to destroy it, to make it conform. Yet, the world that could collapse like a deck of cards in Alice in Wonderland, like poorly built set. And the big question is there a way out? Julio Cortázar short stories. I always find a way to sneak them in. I don't teach it as a separate unit, but I think these are just so worthwhile, so amazing, so fascinating. My favorites are Continuity of Parks, Axolotl, The House Taken Over. It is about the dangers of empathy, fragility of identity, how we accept losses, how we learn to live with less, how easily we adapt, whether it's loss of health or the ones we love or our homeland, how easily we learn to live without. The last one I chose for today is Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. It's a melancholic meditation on life and death and time lost and the reasons why we create, and how all of this is so utterly unjust and there is nothing that could be done about it. I guess most of my choices are pretty sad, but isn't most of literature? If you have any suggestions for me or any titles to add for my students list, I would love to hear those. Happy reading, thoughtful reading.